Braden. This is my rock climbing presentation for Comm2400. So this is a picture of a guy climbing Half Dome out in Yosemite Valley. He's probably 2,500 feet up in the air. And these are all little tiny pictures, little tiny pine trees down there that are probably all 60 or 80 feet tall. So that gives you an idea of how high up he is. A little bit about my background. I've been climbing for about 13 years. I've served as a guide for Project Adventure Trips. That's guided tours outside in the real environment, guiding middle schoolers and other kids that age. I've worked at a rock climbing gym for about nearly the last 3 years, so I kind of know what's going on, have a good idea about how the whole process works. So the history of rock climbing, it doesn't really have an official beginning. It started back, they believe in the late 1800s is kind of when people really got the idea that it should be a fun thing to do kind of as a sport. Royal Robbins is kind of who kicked off the initial craze. He climbed up Half Dome, that picture you saw earlier, with a team, and they climbed it clean, mostly. I'll talk about that a little bit in a minute. They used pieces of gear that could be, for the most part, removed on their way up, so they didn't leave a whole lot of junk on the rock, if you will. So a little bit about the different types of climbing. There's sport climbing, which is a type of lead climbing. It's what you see a lot in competitions. It's where you lead the rope up with you as you're going. There's trad climbing, short for traditional. There's top roping, which is where your rope is already connected at the top before you start the climb. There's aid climbing, which is where you actually have to use your ropes and stuff like that to actually climb. You're not necessarily using the rock, you're actually using your equipment. So you would connect a rope and then shimmy up the rope and then connect it again and then shimmy up it again. It can get a little tedious. There's free solo climbing, which is where you climb by yourself with no protection, which is a little bit crazy because if you fall, that's pretty much it. There's big wall climbing, which is something like this. Generally, big wall climbing is anything that requires more than one standard length of a rope. If you have to stop and reconnect your rope and go through the entire length again, that's what they call multi-pitch. Pitch is one length of a climb, so that's what classifies it as a big wall climb. There's indoor climbing, like at a climbing gym, which is where I work at, and you can also ice climb. This is a little bit about the gear. These are carabiners here, these aluminum clips, as they're referred to a lot of times. This is a harness here that you have. You can use a rope or not, like I said, if you free solo. You can use special climbing shoes to really aid in gripping the rock. This is all trad gear up here at the top. These are cams. You would insert that into a crack in the rock and then they open up, and that prevents it from falling out. Then you would attach your rope to the other end right there to a carabiner. Chocks, that's just what they're, kind of the generic name, chocks, nuts, hexes, cams. Pitons, those are the metal, almost railroad spike-like devices you hammer into the rock. Then you can attach a rope to that. That's kind of what Royal Robbins used. There's hand chalk you can use, which is essentially gymnast chalk. It dries your hands out, lets you get a much better grip. And if you prefer to wear a helmet, not a bad idea on a lot of this stuff, you can do that as well. So a little bit about the ratings. The E-Bank system goes from 1 up to 34, 1 being the easiest, 34 being the most difficult. That's used in Australia and New Zealand. There's the French system, which is also numerical, just subdivided A, B, and C, A being easy, C being difficult. 4A, easy, 4C, a little more difficult. There's the Yosemite decimal system, which is what we use here in America. It's also what they use for competitions. 5.6 being the easiest, 5 all the way up to 5.15. And there's been speculation as to whether they should include a 5.16 since people have gotten so good at climbing nowadays that they can kind of move past that barrier of the 5.15. That can also be subdivided with a plus or minus, 5.6 being in 5.6 minus being an easy, 5.6, 5.6 plus being a difficult 5.6. So, a lot of the question stems from, is it safe? And the answer is yes, of course. If you've ever driven a car on the road, then you've actually been in more danger, statistically speaking, than if you were rock climbing. You're using life-saving gear the whole time, so it's designed for this kind of stuff. Cars aren't really designed to get into accidents, but that happens. These harnesses and ropes you use are designed to take falls. And most of the time when you have a climbing accident, it's human error. You either left your gear out too long and let it weather, or you set something up improperly due to lack of training. That's generally what happens with it. So it's extremely safe and very enjoyable, so you don't have to worry about that. That's my presentation. Are there any questions? Thank you very much.